what 2025 and beyond is going to look like in middle market M&A or in M&A. Obviously, we had an election and things have seemed, at least to this point, seem to be moving very, very quickly, probably extremely business friendly.
That's our view as well. There is no perfect storm, right? Interest rates may not go down as quickly as the market might have anticipated 6 months ago.
Yeah. So let's talk about DealMax. Welcome to another inspiring episode of the M&A Advisor podcast. You want to stay tuned as I dive into insightful conversations with top experts in M&A, distressed investing, restructuring, and finance, and you won't want to miss their valuable insights. Hello there, M&A Advisor community. This is Roger Aguinaldo, and welcome back to the M&A Advisor podcast. Since 1998, the M&A Advisor's mission is to recognize achievements, provide thought leadership, and connect professionals in mergers and acquisitions for the purpose of improving your deal-making craft and accelerating your deal flow. We are so glad you're joining us for this insightful and inspiring podcast conversation curated for mergers and acquisitions professionals. Whether you're an aspiring deal maker, a seasoned professional, or just curious about the world of mergers and acquisitions, you'll find something valuable and relevant in our podcast. Our goal is to bring you the best insights, stories, and tips from the experts who've been there and done that, so you can learn from their successes and mistakes and take your deal-making skills to the next level. But before we dive in today's episode, we have a small favor to ask you. If you enjoy listening to our podcast and find it useful, please consider following us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and subscribing to our M&A Alerts newsletter. You can find the links in the description below. This will help us reach more people like you and grow our community of M&A professionals. It will also let us know that you appreciate our work and want us to keep producing more quality content for you. Plus, you'll never miss an episode, and you'll always be in the loop with the latest trends in the M&A world to improve and accelerate your deal making. So please follow us. You are the reason we do what we do, and we couldn't do it without you. And now for today's podcast. This spring, the M&A Advisor is preparing for the upcoming 2025 Distressed Investing Summit, set to take place on March 24th and 25th in sunny West Palm Beach, Florida. This premier event will showcase transformative ideas, innovative solutions, and strategies shaping the M&A landscape with a focus on bankruptcy, restructuring, and turnarounds. M&A professionals and deal makers can't afford to miss this opportunity to enhance their distressed investing deal making. The M&A Advisor podcast aims to shine a spotlight on the voices that move the M&A industry forward towards excellence. And in this context, we're excited to welcome back an M&A industry stalwart who joined us for a podcast episode last April, I believe. So please allow me to introduce him. It's Brent Baxter, the CEO of the Association for Corporate Growth, ACG. Welcome, Brent.
Well, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to do this again.
Yeah. Well, great to have you back. For those of you who did not hear that podcast or listen, certainly go back to it. That's the beauty of these podcasts, is that you could just click back to it, and there'll be a link at the in the description here to last year's podcast. But just allow me to give you a little bit of background, and if I left out anything, Brent, just let me know. ACG is a global community dedicated to driving middle market growth. Brent, who took the CEO role in 2023, brings over 25 years of experience in middle market M&A, having closed more than 200 transactions valued at over $1 billion. A longtime advocate of ACG, he's also served on its board and received the 2023 DealMax Lifetime Achievement Award. Prior to ACG, Brent was a managing director at Nolan Associates, who also received an M&A Advisor award last November. and led a St. Louis-based investment bank for 18 years. He's also led successful acquisitions as CEO of a food manufacturing company and serves on multiple boards of privately held businesses. ACG DealMax is an event, a conference set for April 7th to the 9th in 2025 at the Aria Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Ladies and gentlemen, we are thrilled to have him on our podcast today. Please welcome to the show, Brent Baxter. Hello again, Brent.
Well, hello again, and thank you for that lovely introduction. Very nice. Appreciate it.
I hope I didn't leave out. I'm sure I left a lot of things out, but listen, let's just get right into it. You know, you've been CEO of ACG. Sort of what's keeping you busy lately, and how have things changed for you since our last podcast?
It's a great question. So I am, I guess now just about 17 or 18 months into the role. And as you mentioned, had been a just active participant in all of ACG's activities and events as an investment banker for well over 20 years. And it's the first time ACG has had an insider as its CEO. Most trade associations are run by trade association professionals. But I often like to say that ACG is quite a bit different from the Association of Orthodontists or pediatric neurologists that have very, very singular constituencies. ACG reaches a really broad constituency, generally around middle market merger and acquisition, but we're really focused on private finance and growth and capital. So in your, early introduction, we're an organization with, a lot of reach. We have just shy of 14,000 members in 60 chapters in 7 countries.
Yep.
And it reaches the full spectrum of middle market, M&A, private equity, family offices, independent sponsors, investment banks, big investment banks, boutique investment banks, accounting firms, law firms, wealth advisors who are counseling family businesses. We have a large number of corporate members. So, understanding ACG as an insider, I think has really been a big benefit to me in this role. I guess for a little more context, as an investment banker, ACG was essential to my business, not tangential, essential. Yeah. And what a place for an organization to be where you're essential to your members in a variety of ways. We play an essential role in...
And that's mostly because of deal flow, marketing, exposure, connections, a lot of the events that are happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So just, maybe the best way to answer that is my own experience. So as a boutique investment bank, a significant amount of our business came from referrals, and a huge number of those referrals came from ACG members. So whether it was an accounting firm that had an owner considering exit, or a bank that was concerned or nurturing a client into transition, a law firm, other investment banks that didn't have area of expertise that we had. So that referral network was huge in building the practice. And then when you get into a transaction, it has ACG connections where we found folks for sell-side Q of A or advice on a particular tax or an international consideration, great law firms. We found any number of private equity or strategic buyers through those relationships. One of our chapters, says relationships are the deal. And that maybe should be a tagline for ACG overall, because we build these amazing and intense multi-year relationships among our members. Tactically, you mentioned DealMax. DealMax, we have, it's our biggest event of the year, a little over 3,000 attendees. But last year we scheduled 17,000 one-on-one meetings for the attendees at DealMax. And that same scheduling tool is now being used in many of our chapters. And I think by this time next year, we will be approaching nearly 100,000 one-on-one meetings that ACG facilitates that are essential to the business development efforts of private equity, family office, independent sponsors that are essential to investment banks, connecting with appropriate buyers. So the answer to your question is 18 months in, what do you feel? How fun is that to be in a place where you have such an important role in the business activities of your members, and to be able to build on that is my great joy and my great challenge.
Yeah, well, we'll dive into DealMax a little bit later, but I want to talk to you on your role now as the CEO. Have you seen, any the membership growth? Let's talk about the association of. Are you seeing growth in there, or the quality of people, the numbers of people, your focus on making having more corporate or members? Where have you achieved many of those goals?
Yeah, so I'll segment that. And although most folks first think of ACG as a member organization, when you sort of take a step back, essentially we're an events organization. So across our 60 chapters, we probably have something in the neighborhood of 1,600 events a year.
Wow.
And that is where
facilitate a lot of those connections, right?
Exactly. That is where our members connect with one another.
Right.
So membership is critically important, and we're focused on it all the time. We have a number of initiatives to add to our member value proposition, and we'll talk about GF data in particular probably a little bit later. But adding higher quality to those events is the execution strategy that makes sense, because that is where our folks connect. Back to that reference of being able to schedule nearly 100,000 one-on-one events with a single scheduling tool.
Yeah.
That's really important to our members, and it makes our member experience stronger. And sharing best practices among our chapters, what resonates with our members, what draws the best audience, where do we create the best networking opportunities? That's what we're focused on.
So the meeting scheduling, though, is that's throughout all of the chapters, right? Yes. So 17,000 meetings you talked about, is that only happening at DealMax, or is that happening all throughout all through the year in the chapter?
Yeah. So specifically, while our audience is on premise at the Aria Hotel in Las Vegas, we will schedule last year we scheduled 17,000 one-on-one meetings. For many of this audience that's been at DealMax, you would know that that's about half the number of meetings that actually occur.
Right.
Because folks network in the hallways and the coffee shops and the many parties and after hours events. So you think about a group of people.
And you got that messaging tool, right? So you're talking to them and hey, let's just meet, outside the men's room on
exactly. Or just the random encounter at the cocktail party where you find out that I just did a consumer goods deal as an investment banker, and I happen to be talking to a private equity fund who has a very similar investment thesis that I just hadn't really gotten to know very well.
Right.
But to fully answer your question, where we were 8 or 10 years ago, our chapters by and large are independent, and we now have some chapters that have merged with the headquarter organization. But 7 or 10 years ago, every one of those chapters that had a networking event had a different scheduling tool.
Right.
So if you were an investment banker and you went to 7 or 8 different chapter events, you had to learn 7 different scheduling tools, all of which work differently, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of inefficiency, a lot of stress.
And enter all your information again and again and again and again, right? Same information. So now you have one tool.
Yep.
So you can go to any of these chapters. You could, if you're in New York, you fly out to LA or Houston. Yep. And it's the same profile, same everything, and you're going to connect with those people. So how many of those meetings? That's why you should join just right there, right? You should.
Well, and to make it even more, thank you. That gives me an opportunity for a sales pitch. Most folks on the outside and even our internal folks say, well, those meetings are all just private equity meeting investment banks for deal flow. We can tell you that 1/3 of those meetings today, of those 80 or 90,000 meetings that we're scheduling with that single tool,
Right.
that about 1/3 of those meetings are with what an M&A partner, accounting firm, law firm, executive search firm, something like that, meeting with,
So service provider,
yes,
M&A partner, someone who's
exactly.
helping you on the transaction.
Exactly. So we are a very robust vehicle for an accounting firm to expand their footprint, to meet more referral sources, to meet more private equity as potential clients, and quite often meet each other.
Yeah.
You know, a law
Well,
firm is a rich
I
source of
always thought
referral
this
for
is
an
just
accounting firm. Yep.
sort of networking. So I've been doing networking for decades, right? We've
Right.
all been doing
Yeah.
networking. And I would always hear a lawyer, some lawyers say, oh, nobody wants to meet a lawyer. Nobody, and the count, oh, nobody wants to meet. And I'm like, why are you doing yourself a
Yeah.
disservice, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, uh, be confident. Just, go out there. Any advice to like those even younger people, because I maybe tend to hear that from sort of the
Yeah.
old school
Yeah.
folks who
Yeah.
said nobody wants to meet a lawyer, nobody wants to hear
Yeah.
from a lawyer, and actually, that's not true.
Yeah, it's sort of like anything, you got to do the work. But interestingly, you mentioned that. So we just recorded, we have a vehicle called Growth TV. So it's a live video interview. And we identified some of our M&A partners, service providers, who had the highest number of scheduled meetings at our events.
Yeah.
And said, like, what's your secret? And their secret is you have to do some homework, right? You can't just show up and expect the world to come to you.
Right.
You have to decide why you're relevant to the people you want to meet. Make sure that's in your intro.
Yep.
And they, to a person, say ACG has been instrumental to the business development activities of my firm, accounting firm, law firm, finance, whatever you want to call it. Those events are enormously productive. I get more meetings than I can handle.
Yeah.
But you just have to.
Well, here's advice to these service providers, lawyers, accountants, valuation, all those.
Yep.
Solve a problem.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
You're so like, you do your homework, and it's not that hard, right? Go to their websites. It's not that hard. What can you do for them?
Exactly. Yep.
Right. And then they'll meet you.
Yep.
Well, and by the way, they might say no, and you move on, right? And you just
exactly. Yep.
I'm not surprised that 1/3,
Mhm.
probably more than that, probably a lot more meetings happen because you present yourself. So the scheduled meetings happen because you present
Right.
yourself as solving a problem. But I would say maybe more than half, maybe double, maybe 2.5 times that are meeting on site because the PE or the IB or the corporate are like, they're looking
Right.
to have a problem solved, and they want to bump into somebody
They do. Who
can solve their problem.
You're exactly right. You just have to, if you're
Got to get your elevator pitch right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're it's sort of interesting for our we have an ag tech event that we're growing, and we just found out that two of our very larger law firms have 100 attorneys each in ag tech.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You do your homework, you find, holy cow, those are folks that want to meet other ag tech folks that have real experience in getting deals done. And the private equity and investment bankers that are in ag tech want to meet a law firm that has 100 attorneys in ag tech? You bet they do.
Yeah.
You just have to do that extra lift to make sure you're relevant.
Yeah. So let's talk about Deal Max. Okay. Right. So, if you haven't gone, right, you gotta go. I think. But from the CEO of ACG, why, if they haven't gone, why should someone now go? And it's not a cheap ticket. And for registration and travel, hotel, and most importantly, time out of the office or time not doing that deal, right?
So it is our most expensive event, but it also has the most duration of any of our events. So we have a handful of conferences that will draw 1,000, 1,100 people. And those are typically a day and a half at best. Sometimes, kind of a day and a half.
Like the New York ones and ACGLA.
Sure. Yep. M&A South in Atlanta, Denver, Texas. I don't want to leave anybody out. We have a lot of those events that, there was just an event in St. Louis with 500 folks, and it was essentially a half day with some cocktails. DealMax is a full 2.5 days, and many people come in on Sunday for golf and other activities. So when you add that up, it's 3.5 full days, and everybody's in the room. Yeah. So we have
doing those, the golf, the tennis, I mean, the running, the yoga. I don't know what else.
It's all there. It's all there. You want to run?
You recommend doing those types of things? Come in early.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, if you're a golfer, you know how to use golf for networking. If you're a runner, frankly, you've learned how to use running to build relationships. But in that, so although it is more expensive when you talk about the amount of time and the number of people that you can connect with in that 3.5 days, it's probably the most efficient cost per meeting, numerator and denominator. If to what you just said, if you do the work. So it's exhausting if you do the work, because you can literally get up at 7 a.m. and you can get back at midnight, and you can have met 35, 40, 50 relevant people during that first day. And then you got to get up and do it again. But there is no bigger bang for the buck. I'm going to tell a little bit of an odd story here, but it sort of talks about the relevance. We're trying to build more corporate attendees to DealMax. And we're nicely on track to, more and more corporates. But many, many years ago, the Intergrowth.
Well, it was called the Association for Corporate Growth.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Right.
And it started out as an association of corporate development people, and then it migrated to more private equity.
A lot more private equity, right? Well, what percent?
Actually, funny thing you should ask.
Okay.
We have almost exactly the same number of corporate members as we do private equity managing a fund.
Really?
Now, when you add in independent sponsors and family offices and that sort of thing, it's larger. But we have a very large corporate constituency. It's concentrated in some chapters, 10 or 15 chapters that have very, very large corporate membership. But the parable from Intergrowth years ago, it was head of business development for Nestle Purina Pet Care. He was one of 10 corporates that would come to Intergrowth out of 2,000 people.
Right.
And I asked him, well, why do you come? You're only one of 10 corporates. And he said, it's the most efficient 2.5 days I spend all year, because back to your point, I do my homework. And in 2.5 days, I am able to meet every large private equity firm who has an investment in pet care, and every investment bank that has pet care knowledge. Right. He said, I do that in 2.5 days. It's amazing.
Right.
Now,
and of course, I'm sure he follows through.
In advance, he made the calls.
Right.
And said, I'm going to be there. And so it's like the king saying, would you like to come to my court?
Right.
I, the business development guy from the largest pet care company in the world, would kind of like to see you. And so he drew his own audience in some respects, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So, but that's the power of that DealMax. Back to your question, you cannot achieve that any other venue, any other organization in that same period of time. And that's why you should consider attending.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. So beyond the one-on-one connections, meetings, doing your homework, and then sort of the networking that invariably happens with that many people, right? Going out there. What are the reasons would someone want to come to DealMax?
Well, yeah, I think those are the biggest business reasons that you're going to make a connection that's going to lead to more business.
Yeah.
I mean, you are, if you do the work right. And if you do it consistently, if you go year after year, you're going to continue to build this ever larger network of highly relevant connections to whatever it is you do and whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Oh, by the way, it's a lot of fun. right? It's on a great property. There are enormous opportunities. All of our sponsors, are doing events all around town, whether it's dinners or cocktail parties.
Right. So more networking things. How about some of the sessions or any of the session? You folks?
So a lot of great education. We have dozens of educational sessions, and thank you for bringing that up. We're real excited this year. We have the new CEO of Red Lobster coming, which has private equity background. It's a huge turnaround. He's been on 60 Minutes and all sorts of things. That's going to be cool. But we have deep dive sessions on how is AI going to impact investment banking. You want to know about post-merger HR integration. We have that content for you.
Yeah.
So it's a terrific opportunity to learn in addition to making all those relevant connections.
So with all the meetings and all of the, even though you have golf and it's in Las Vegas, it's talking to the heads of all of these other companies who might be, it's not the boondoggle that most people think it is, right?
It's hard work. Anybody that gets value out of DealMax or any of our other chapter events DealMax will tell you it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But they'll leave. We have a recording somebody, service provider, M&A, coming up the escalator and saying, "We just filled our 2024 pipeline." From our meetings. At that event.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, we wish you a lot of luck with that. How does somebody find information regarding and register? Are there any things that are there any
super easy? Just
early bird? Did we pass the early bird? I guess
early bird was last week, so it's going to cost you a little bit more, but it's worth it. Again, you do that numerator and denominator thing. You're going to get so many leads and connections and relationships.
So did the hotel sell out, or you still have room in the hotel?
Yeah, we got plenty of room in the hotel.
We're at the end of January recording this, so
9 weeks.
Okay,
you got 9 weeks.
I got 9 weeks.
Go forth and register.
Okay, great. Let's talk about GF data. We didn't talk about that on the last podcast, but what is it? Why is it important? And what kind of analytical data, is there?
Approaching maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, ACG acquired GF Data, and was founded by two entrepreneurs who were deep in the fabric of ACG.
Now, did you work on that deal? I mean, you're Nolan Associates. Did you bring that deal in?
I worked on it as a board member at the time, and thought it was hugely strategic for ACG. So the business model is, simple but brilliant. We have roughly 400 private equity firms who answer 30 questions when they close a deal. And that data is then anonymized and organized by NAICS code. So because it's controlled data, it's incredibly accurate. So we are very accurate about what the EBITDA multiple was, how much senior debt was there mezzanine debt, was there rollover equity, was there an earnout?
And a lot of these are private deals, so
100% of them are private deals.
Yeah.
So other data sources take their data by scraping public records.
Right.
Well, by their nature, private transactions are private.
Yeah.
So we are the only source and incredibly accurate source of private company data. And
so you have a team of people that when an announcement is made, or you basically have all the membership of ACG private equity, and you ask them to volunteer their information.
Well, so there's two sides of the business: the contributors and then the subscribers. So the contributors contribute the data. If they contribute a lot of data, they get a reduced rate on the subscription. So sort of, it makes sense, right? Sliding scale, the more data we get, the more valuable it is. If you contribute one deal a year, you might pay more than someone that contributes 25 or 30. And then the subscribers are investment banks, commercial banks, financing sources, all those sort of things. Uh, and it's growing very, very nicely for us. Our subscribers renew in excess of a 90% renewal rate.
Yep.
So that kind of just says everything, doesn't it?
Yep.
This is valuable
How
to
many
me.
data points do you get a year? How many transactions are in there?
So we get, it of course, depends on the velocity in the industry, but 400-ish plus or minus. So
Okay.
there's
And
now
in different
thousands and
sectors?
thousands of data
Yep.
points accumulated over years. But again, it is the only source of information for those private market transactions. We're
Yep.
adding contributors at a double-digit rate. We're adding subscribers at a double-digit rate. And that's just a very, very valuable asset. We make little bits. We're this year making certain parts of that data a member benefit of ACG, where you'll get access to some leading indicator reports that only go to our members and won't
Yep.
go to non-members. But as a trade association, we're sort of in the perfect spot, right? Because we, by our nature, are agnostic.
Yeah.
All we want to do is report accurate data about what's going on in our industry. So that gives confidence to our contributors that, we're a good steward of that information. And of course, it's all anonymous, but it's just a wonderful asset for us to have to build subscription revenue, to add more value. Of course, if you're an ACG member, you're going to get a discount to be a subscriber. And
Yep.
that's a good reason.
How much does it cost a year? And
it depends a little bit, like any recurring revenue. It depends a little bit about the size of the user and that sort of
so
thing.
on average, just for our listeners of this.
I hate to quote prices.
Okay.
I want to hold somebody to say, I heard that podcast and Brent said I can get a subscriber, because it does. Obviously, if an organization might have 100 users of the data versus one, there's going to be pricing. But it's it's a great value. How's that?
I'm going to point them to call Brent Baxter to get a subscription. I would, there. So, certainly it sounds like, something that would be of value for any transaction in valuation, pricing, all of those things. I would imagine you have different sectors or all of those types of stuff.
Yeah, you can slice and dice the data. If you want to know what a pet food manufacturing company, 50 million transaction value, what's the multiple over 10 years? That's GF data.
Okay.
If you want to know that equity is increasing as the overall percentage of deal structure, that's GF data. If you want to know how the senior debt was priced, that's GF data.
Yeah. Well, does GF data print, macro reports or analysis offered to the members, to ACG?
Yep. So we just published both print and digitally our middle market outlook report. The hard copy is right around the corner here. It's a beautiful print magazine, but it's available digitally. A whole section in there from GF data about major trends and multiples, what we think is going to happen in 2025. We publish quarterly reports, and most importantly is those subscriber users who use it every day to figure out what companies are worth, where the markets are trending, and how to structure debt.
So let's end with what 2025 and beyond is going to look like in middle market M&A or in M&A. Obviously, we had an election, and things have seemed, at least to this point, seem to be moving very, very quickly. Probably extremely business friendly, and at least from the folks that we've heard since we had our event in November after the election, and everybody, I would tell you, everybody seemed to be bullish, given this new administration.
I think that's our view as well. There is no perfect storm, right? So interest rates may not go down as quickly as the market might have anticipated 6 months ago. But that's all part of the business cycle and normal planning. But most of our colleagues that publish information about our industry, that track deals, are all feeling pretty strongly that deal activity is going to increase in 2025 and 2026. The fundamentals are there. I think it's sort of a well-known fact that there's a lot of private equity overhang, private equity that did not bring portfolios to market in the last couple of years, have that sort of inherent pressure to get money back to their LPs. And so there's a lot of companies that have been on the sidelines that have to and must transact. So.
Right.
So I think we're seeing strong registration trends in DealMax and in all of our chapters. And I think that is our members saying, I need to be out in this deal environment because it's happening.
Right. Right. Well, good. So we see a lot of bullishness, from the M&A Advisor, from our last event, our awards and people look, people like to be, your old firm, Nolan, people with all these middle market M&A shops, both private equity and investment banking, they need to differentiate, right?
Yeah.
And one of the ways they differentiate is to nominate themselves in the M&A Advisor Awards. Well, congratulations on your old firm.
Well, let me, just take this opportunity to compliment you on what your organization has really done. You're a very prestigious award that folks strive to earn, and I see it across a large swath of our membership that, right out there, I won an M&A Advisor Award, and it's in their marketing and in their email signatures. And so you've really created a wonderful mechanism to recognize the activity and success of our members, and kudos to you for doing that.
Well, thank you. And 26 years ago when I started this newsletter, basically on the side as an investment banker, I realized back then, and this was before middle market, the term middle market came about, was that, in M&A, the, sort of the big deals were, and the big firms were all on the league tables, right?
Yeah.
What about the boutique firms who couldn't get on league tables? How do you differentiate yourself? And, we came up with one of the ways was, sort of a newsletter that spoke to the middle market boutique, M&A and private equity, but then the awards as well. How do you differentiate? How do you get the word out about a great deal you did? So, we're fortunate to be able to recognize that and to provide that kind of value for people. And look, ACG, we started our business on going to ACG events.
Yeah, sure. Essential to building a business.
It's essential to connect with people. Yeah. And nobody knew who the heck we were, right? Until you got to do that. Yes, you're right. You got to do the work.
Yep.
So there are independent sponsors out there. There are, boutique investment banks out there. Sort of when you get a transaction, you have it and you get it done, certainly nominated for an M&A Advisor Awards. But until that time, you need to expand your network. And ACG is, I would say absolutely the place to be. And if you can't make it out to DealMax, certainly New York, LA, your local.
Every chapter offers robust opportunities for you, wherever you may be, from Oklahoma City to, New York.
The national chapter, if I could put a plug, not national chapter, but the international DealMax, back then it was called Intergrowth. That kind of, when you step out of the chapter into sort of a more, domestic at that time and global stage, or, start connecting with people from around the country and from around the world, it gives you a much larger perspective.
Yeah, we'll have 100 roughly of our colleagues from Canada at DealMax, and we probably have 60 or 70 people from our European chapters. So it is a global event for sure.
Right. Terrific. Brent, anything else that I left out or that you want to?
No, just delighted to be with you and enjoy these conversations. And again, kudos for the business you've built. It's recognized for your recognition.
And congratulations on heading up a great organization. ACG, and I would highly recommend people certainly go to DealMax, but it's short of that, join ACG or
What
go
you
to your
said.
captain, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Great
Okay.
close. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And acg.org, right?
Very
acg.
easy. Yep. Navigate it from there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Terrific. Brent, thank you very much
And
for
thank you
joining
very
us.
much. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thank
Okay.
you.
Take
Bye.
care. We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new from it. If you have any questions or comments for us or any of our guests, please feel free to leave them in the podcast platform of your choice or send us an email at editor@maadvisor.com. We would love to hear from you and get your feedback. And if you haven't done so already, please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and subscribe to our M&A Alerts newsletter at the links in the description or on our website at www.maadvisor.com. This will help you stay updated on the latest M&A interviews and trends and support our podcast to grow and reach more listeners like you. This is Roger Aguinaldo, the creator and founder of the M&A Advisor. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our M&A Advisor community. Until next time, stay safe and happy dealing.